opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Between science and ignorance, there is filler.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Filler. Original broadcast date, September 18th, 2016. I am your host, Wes Forsythe, and tonight I'm doing something I don't remember ever actually doing what I'm doing tonight. Not that it's any great stretch for me, but as if you keep up with the show, as you know, just last week I went to the Farrar Schoolhouse in Maxwell, Iowa. We had an event there with the lovely and talented Elizabeth Saint, Chris Sutton, and myself. And by the way, Chris Sutton is on the air with us. We I wanted to come on, and tonight's episode is going to be full of what I like to term metaphysical bullshit, because I am talking about greatly the psychic impressions. Now, we went into the place with a lead up of I'd watched the videos of it. I'd heard some of the stories. And so I really tried to not go in with a lot of preconceived ideas about what the activity was and how it was going to manifest itself. And I think that part came out okay, but I did find some, what I would call, for me personally, truth in some of the stories, although I don't know that everything is 100% accurate as far as what people have, how they have interpreted what is going on at the schoolhouse. And that includes the psychics, and of course, one thing that has come up both during our investigation and the lead up to it, there's a lot of urban lore that has been created by the ghost hunting community. That once you get there, the people that run the place will tell you whether or not it's BS or not. And a great deal of it, yes, did turn out to be BS. So in other words, anything that's wrong with the history of the place does not seem to be coming from within. It does just seem to be word of mouth, the TV shows and all that stuff. Although they've only been on one TV show, and I thought they kept the story fairly accurate, because they had the same stuff to go on as me. Do not forget, the Scarefest is coming up September 30th through October 2nd. I'll actually be there on the 29th along with a bunch of people at the launch party. Yes, Wes Forsythe in a bar at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. What can go wrong with that?
That's worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah, Chris, I think I'm going to do an experiment at the launch party and maybe the VIP party too. Just so that I can say that I'm behaving, I think I will only drink liquor that other people have paid for. So if someone buys me a drink, I will be obligated to drink it. And we'll see how that goes.
Obligated, yeah, I like that word.
Everybody, of course, on the line with me is Coyote Chris Sutton. And also, as a little added bonus, I have brought in Aaron Thompson. Aaron Thompson is the one of the dudes behind the Ghost Crier. We'll call it the project right now because it's not launched. I want to find out where that's going. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Wes.
Well,
good to see you, Chris.
Aaron?
In your own way, Aaron, you impressed me. I see a lot in you that I saw in my younger self. The main difference is, everyone, life obviously has not beaten down this young man yet.
Not yet. He is full of life.
But we did want to bring Aaron in. Aaron did. I guess you did real time audio through most of the investigation, didn't you, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually how I enjoy doing a lot of the EVP sessions. So yeah, throughout the entire event, I had 2 different devices that I was listening live audio on.
Now, what was the fancy one?
The fancy one you're talking about, Wes, is the good old Ghost Arc. Has all the bells and whistles. It's like the Swiss Army knife of ghost hunting tools.
What all does it do? I heard y'all call it by name. Now, I was not familiar with this device. I guess I'm a little out of the loop where I'm not in the field as much as I used to be. What all does that device do?
Well, first off, it hit my radar last November, maybe a little bit before that. It really is your ghost box. It's your EVP. It can record, of course, live. It can slow things down. You can review on the spot. Also, it's an EMF detector, so it detects that as well as temperature, as well as pressure changes in the environment. And it also serves as a sound trap, if you wanted to use it like that.
Does it now, of course, I'm taking it on the, even though it's a recording device for the audio, as far as the other bells and whistles, it doesn't actually record that data, it just gives them to you in real time.
Yes, it just gives the you're right, the EMF detection as well as the temperature gauges real time. Correct.
See, that is actually one thing. See, they're almost on a good thing there. Those are important factors. But I know with the distractions, and especially if you're listening really intent on the audio, they need to take that just one step further over to the actual data collection, data logging. In other words,
right.
They need to add a data logger to that, so that you have some type of spreadsheet that you could pull out or something that would show you at 8 p.m. the EMF was doing this, and then and the same with the pressure. Those are good measurements to take, but it gets back to the old nerd in me.
Right.
I like to. That's because you're not going to sit there and log all that stuff down.
Right.
So, but I think if we're going to claim that we're trying to find the variables that promote or allow paranormal activity, I think that's one. Of course, you said what? It's like $300, so that'll probably bump it up another $100. So I still won't have one.
Yeah, it's not the cheapest device, and it does have something where you can go online and review the data. So I actually believe it has those statistics on kind of a platform that's through their own website, of course. The thing, of course, I'm going to give a full review here, pros and cons, within the next month or so I should be dropping that. But there's a few cons that are kind of big with this one. And I've been reading online a lot of the issues with this device. Though the functionality and the idea of it is awesome, it doesn't function consistently with each device created. As example, with mine, it was actually at one point, and I'm going to kind of double confirm this before I do the review, but it gave the illusion that it was giving off its own EMF field. That's kind of problematic when I'm getting EMF spikes, and I'm like, what's going on there? I take my other detector, and it's not getting anything until I get right by the EMF detector on the Ghost Arc. So that's just one pretty big concern that I have with that. I got more, but
it's something. It may be explainable because if it gives off the EM field, of course now there's a lot of variations on it. But
right.
In other words, if it's giving off the low static charge that people use to find out if a ghost will interrupt that static charge, then it's really not that outlandish because it shouldn't be able to read itself, because I guarantee you that EMF meter is still tuned to your average wall socket.
Of course. As
far as the frequency. So then if it's emitting a DC charge, then that kind of makes it... God, what's the damn thing called? REM pod just lights up. I don't know which. It's one of them. I see there are all these blinky light things.
Plasma ball. There's
the plasma balls just put out a regular
the
EM field.
Electricity.
But yeah, there are some devices that just put out a low level DC field that, of course, and people say, oh, use the energy, and I'm sorry, but that's a whole nother conversation for another show.
I heard the other day, and I forgot the name of it too, but there is a certain thing they'll put out for the ghosts to use to juice themselves up with.
Yeah, one gentleman was talking about use of an EMF pump, and
right.
And I just say turn on a bathroom heater. It probably has the same effect. But that's not why we're here tonight. Okay, enough nerd talk between the boys. Okay, Aaron. Before we get into our psychic impressions,
oh yeah.
How many times had you been to Farrar?
That was my first.
That was your first time.
Yeah.
What did you think about the location? Take the hunt out of it, because when you're on a public hunt, we were chatting a little bit before the show, and we'll share some of the stories. One mistake that I was completely involved in, but as far as the location itself, as going in as a more of a technical operator, what did you feel about the place?
I'm definitely going back, absolutely, with a smaller group, if not me and one or two other folks, because I do think that there's a potential there. The building's awesome. It's cool. It looks like as of right now, it looks like your typical school, at least the one that I had growing up in. However, the idea of the area being kind of a stomping ground for these immature, energies, or this adolescent, spirits that gather here. Because if you look at the history, there's not a lot of known deaths of children at this school.
Right.
It's not like a morbid school here.
And that's something that and I know Chris and I are on board on this. We can explain that part. That part's easy, and still say it's haunted.
Right.
In the synopsis, everyone, if you want to go ahead and tune out now, 99. Chris, now correct me on my statistic here, but I would say 99% of the child ghosts that we encounter in the field are not. They were not children when they bit the big one. When they started pushing up daisies.
Yes, so they crossed over. Yes, they weren't children. They came back as children. Yeah.
Okay, so. Is 99% a good number to throw at that?
That might be a tad high, but you're probably I'm sure it's closer to that than anything else. I don't think any children died there.
I'll bet that number's closer. We found this out on Scarefest Radio the other night. I bet that number is closer than the number of people who died of TB in Waverly Hills.
Right. That was an interesting statistic.
99%. It sounds accurate.
Okay, Chris.
I like it. but yeah, my overall feeling with the location, I did like it. I thought it was a neat area to really investigate and look at the ground, look at the structure, and of course attempt to communicate with anything that passed.
If it just wasn't in the middle of freaking Iowa.
Yes, I know.
Dead center.
Okay, Chris.
I got, for part of me, I got kind of distracted. It's difficult when you're a host and you're hosting an event, because when I'm doing that, and every other tour I've ever given or any investigation I've ever done where I'm one of the hosts or whatnot, my mind goes to other places as far as making sure everybody's safe and things like that. So I kind of take on the roles kind of like a protector or something like that. So I myself I'm kind of like Wes. I'm having to go back and look things over. One thing about the place to me is there's stuff going on outside at nighttime that it's something that will and who was the caretaker and goes on the
Will?
tours. He and his lovely wife Jacqueline.
Mm-hmm.
He and I were talking about before, and then one of the other guests and I went out to this big tree out there that David Roundtree, who had been there when they did Ghost Stalkers, felt that there had been a really intense native presence there on those grounds. At one time, obviously, the school wouldn't have been there then, but and there is some energy out there around this. This tree's pretty cool. And what some people call fairy rings are around it. So you had stuff going on outside too, and I could actually feel that coming through the walls part of the time, especially when we're in the auditorium for some reason. But it was, there was all sorts of things going on, but it was always hard to, to access exactly what it was, because there's different things going on at once, but it's not all real obvious. There are things in the corners, there's things off on the side that didn't want to come around the groups. And so, I mean, I was feeling all that kind of stuff too going on. So it was kind of, I wouldn't want to say I was confused, but I was more like, wow, there's so much, stuff in the grass here, but I can't get to it and go chasing after that because I've got, I'm here with people and things like that. So those things I'd be like, what Aaron, you're talking about, one or two people.
Right.
Doing it, it'd be easier to do. It's kind of hard to do in those types of situations.
That and another thing, Chris and I both tried to avoid. I mean, people would ask us what we were feeling, what we were sensing,
mm-hmm.
but we really tried not to just walk into a room and start telling you what our psychic impressions of the room, because, I mean, that taints a group. I mean, that's that
right.
All of a sudden everybody starts. Oh yes, there's a child in the corner. I mean, I didn't even talk about the child that I saw in the we were in what they call the auditorium, right? That's one upstairs. Yeah, the gymnasium's downstairs, auditorium's upstairs. Right, yeah. I didn't even talk about that until we were out on smoke break.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's another thing. An awful lot of paranormal investigators smoke. It must be the late nights. But I was not. I am never lonely when I'm at a paranormal event when I go out to smoke.
There's always smokers, yeah.
But now as far now here's your chance to critique us, Aaron. What would you have liked to have seen done differently? Because now I'm always the guy that gets invited to the paranormal events, but I've never had to run one. I'm like, whoever. Okay, who do we have left? Okay, Wesley, you take them. That type of thing. So this was my first foray into being a real headliner. Chris has had a little bit of experience with it, but as far as the organization of the hunt, was it what you expected? What were your views on that, Aaron?
It was unique, and I'll explain why I said the word unique. Because I'm very new in the group investigation scene. I've been doing it for so long, and I've always stayed away from those type of events, for my own personal reasons. Mm-hmm. And only recently, last year, August time, I went to my first group event. And the group was awesome. I mean, they were just really nice people. It was a large group. The host was fun. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really know. I really didn't know the host work too much. I really wanted just to go to the event and fill everything out. But it was awesome. So it got me more on this mission, more on this Ghost Crier project in a sense, or to push that further. And I did my first event in January. And so now I have a perspective of that first event that I really, the only event paranormal I've been to, and now I'm doing my own event, and I'm pulling back, of course, from my presentation style, in theater, and I was a trainer at a company as well for years. So I pulled back to everything that I knew that way to present the best way I could for that event. I learned a lot. Learned so much at my own event, but I wanted to do more, not just host my own events, but go to, of course, more. So here we are, of course, to fast forward to this event. It was fun, super, super fun, because I learned something very important. And I knew this going in, but it was good, actually, Wes. I think, Chris, you may have mentioned it as well. The big paranormal events like this really are for the community, the networking, the meet and greet, and that was there. That was a fun experience and worth every dime, that I spent. And of course, going to these type of events also lets you get used to the environment itself and see if this is something you want to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So with you guys hosting, of course, with Elizabeth as well, I liked how you gathered us all in the room, and it was very personal. You met us all individually. That was really cool. It was a very welcoming group, and of course, the chat and the experience and kind of the procedure that we all went through before we started to do the investigation. The very first event that I did, as well as my event, we pretty much, the group just split off and did their own thing. Which pros and cons there. And I gotta say, there was something awesome with how we did the structure here, because at first I did scratch my head, because I'm like, we're kind of following, a pack leader around. We're going room to room to room with the whole group. I scratch my head a little bit, because I'm like, well, I kind of want to get down in a corner by myself and see what I can get. But at the same time, I felt like I maybe learned or had a different, if not better, experience being with that group. Because here we are, all respecting, the space, speaking one at a time, and really trying to figure the whole investigation or the whole environment out together. I thought that was neat. That was not really an idea of what I thought could have happened, but I really like that.
Well, you do on these public the way, and I'm not going to say this was anything original with me, but right. What you just alluded to, the only reason I want to be around a crowd at the end of the day is I want to observe how other people do it. Was it? I might forget the guy's name. Was it Alan? That the gentleman that had did the great EVP session.
Yeah, that was Alan.
Okay. Yeah. I got to see someone who I thought did a very respectable EVP session. He spoke loudly. He spoke clearly. Matter of fact, some people complained that we didn't come to watch him investigate. Well, yeah, you know what? You did. Because Elizabeth, we got her turned on, pardon the expression, when we did an experiment, when we did the reading experiment. That gave her chance to shine, because we tried to feed the paranormal activity, whether it worked or not, with her personality.
Right.
And that's that's a different type of investigation. Then Aaron, I noticed you sat surprisingly quiet after watching you in the meet and greet.
Yeah.
Sat surprisingly quiet over in the corner doing your EVP work and everything.
Yep. I kind of put on different masks when I, of course, in front of a stage or in front of a camera. I wear a different mask probably than when doing an investigation. I get a lot more serious, a lot more stern. And in this scenario, I didn't want to, disrespect by crossing streams, because I was learning still. I think we're always learning in this field. So I really wanted to take in the entire experience and not take over, in a sense. I think my personality, I can do that accidentally, so I've been very good at checking myself.
Tell me, is he a young me or what? Yeah. Because that. But I mean, that's Aaron. I will tell you that I think that those of us with the outstanding, and when I shouldn't say outstanding personality, that sounds self-serving. Outgoing personality.
Ooh, I like it.
Much better term for what I'm describing. We actually, I think that we attract paranormal activity. Now, you can, whether it's at a metaphysical level with the light, the aura, or whether it's just people that are like you, it was obvious you became very comfortable in the environment very quickly. Those of us who go into an environment like that and become comfortable with the environment, I think, create that comfort level goes through the veil. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I what I like to do, of course, when getting on a site for the first time, and I saw it here, is I like when people, introduce yourselves, introduce the group, and really just treat the energy as, a person, an entity. Be assumptive with the questions. At least that's what I always, how I do my full EVP sessions. I'm a lot more assumptive than I think a lot of the hunters. But I do like your word outstanding, Wes. We are outstanding. You too, Chris.
Now, the one thing I was hoping for in the experiment with Elizabeth reading, which apparently did not come to fruition, but we have had some luck with it in the past, is, and this also applies, I've talked about this on the show, applies to EVP sessions. Rather than doing the old-fashioned EVP session where, you're asking for their name, you're asking when they died,
right,
blah, 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 blah. And that,
yeah, really.
Use a conversational tone. Some of the best EVPs that I've ever gotten have been when, in a controlled environment, it's two investigators talking about what they had for dinner that day, that type of thing. And with the reading, that was something what we did, people. We gave Elizabeth. Oh, and that's a good story. We went into the library, and we wanted Elizabeth. I had this idea, which was cool, validated by one of the stories that came up afterwards. But I kept hearing we should read to them. We should read to them. So we went to the library, and I while Elizabeth was probably on her phone with her man friend, but she was late getting into the room, I went through the books and finally found one that I thought would make a good, just read a chapter of it, go on. It was probably aimed at the age group of 10 to 12, I would guess. Well, she comes in, and she apparently didn't like the book, everyone, and she said, "Why did you pick this book out for me?" And I said, "Because I do not know your reading level." But so they did find a more of a children's book that had pictures and everything, and she was fantastic reading that book. I've got to say,
we had side bets to see how quick she'd tase him.
I wasn't worried about being tased, but that big flashlight she bought while we were there.
Yeah, she could have whacked you with that too.
Yeah, I was afraid
she bought
I'd
that just
smacked.
for you too.
I think she said that, but I think she was worried about someone else.
Aaron, we all went to Target that morning, and she picked out that flashlight and looked at Wes and said, "I want this." Okay, I understand.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, everybody, and then we're going to come back, and then Chris and I are going to share our psychic impressions of the Farrar Schoolhouse. So stick around. It's just a quick commercial break.
Hello, friends. Are you exhausted with life? Resent your children? Maybe your husband is cheating on you. Get yourself a tarot reading with Ken Boggle. He can provide you with the clarity, guidance, and answers you need. That's tarotbyken.com. He makes things seem less shitty.
And we're back with more Paranormal Filler and the recap of our Farrar Schoolhouse event. Now, first of all, I'm going to give everybody Wes's travel tip of the day. When you're driving cross country and your car starts making a noise, you will find that if you roll your windows down and turn the radio up, it goes away. So yeah, the car is needing some maintenance now, but it did get me home. We got there. Now, Chris and I and Elizabeth did a walkthrough of the school to kind of give us a baseline of our psychic impressions.
Right.
The only thing I got, which I'll follow up later on, when I was up by the so-called principal's office, which really wasn't his office, it was like where he hung out or something. But anyway, that I heard the word show, but I could not figure out what the word meant, and it actually took me down the wrong path. So as far as what I decided it meant versus what I thought it might mean at the time, then other than that, I didn't get an awful lot, except when we went into the boiler room. I zoomed right in on the place that the caretaker will, I don't want to say he hates it, but instead of in the open boiler room, it's actually where he has had the most experiences come from.
Right. Now I saw a black mass.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to. And then Chris, now what did, as far as walking through that building, just the three of us, what else did you feel about the actual building?
Everybody always talks about the principal's office, and if you watch any of these shows or anything like that, they talk about that. I felt something there, but it wasn't oppressive or anything like that. It was a significant energy. I thought I felt stuff up in the auditorium. Just again, nothing huge, nothing bad. It's just like it was a potentially active place. Like there was things going on there that I wasn't able to actually hone in on. Nor was I trying to, because it would have slowed us down. I was just trying to get a kind of like a first glance, cursory look at everything, and just to be aware of later on. And in that boiler room down in there, that was it. Besides seeing what I saw, it had that real negative feel to it, almost a darkness to that area. But I mean, overall, the energy wasn't oppressive or anything like that, and I didn't find that at night either most of the time. Although if certain things would come around, yes, you could definitely feel it. But it was it was a place I felt at the time had a lot of potential, had a lot of energy to it. Some spirits were around, definitely, and so on. But nothing, I've been in places where it feels pretty natural. You don't feel it, or you don't feel anything. But I did. I got some good impressions around the principal's office and the auditorium, and the boiler room area. And that hallway up, the principal's office is up a short flight of stairs. I think it's the second floor. That hallway's got some feelings to it as well. I think that's the third floor, but definitely I felt some stuff in there.
Now, Aaron, at the end of the night, a bunch of us went into the boiler room.
Right.
You actually went in just about the time I went out, I think. Now, the reason I left the boiler room is sometimes I stifle, if that is people were looking for that negative entity down there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I tend to stifle that. So I thought if I left, did anything happen in there after I pulled out?
No, but I left for the same reason. Especially if you and I are both in a room at the same time, it tends to stifle stuff if we're in close quarters. But I sensed something like up on in the ceiling, and one of the other people who'd been there a few times before said he gets up there in the pipes, and if he doesn't want to get around somebody, if he's not comfortable, he said there's people he can who are easy pickings, so to speak, that he will withdraw. And so I left to see if they gave him a chance after that, but I don't think anything happened. Elizabeth stayed in there, but I don't think anything happened.
Yeah, I went in there. Of course, with the rest of the group was in there, and you came out. I believe both Chris and Wes. I believe you were out at the time. I went back, Chris, and I walked into that first part of the boiler room. And there's like a second part. I admit I got lost because all I'm looking through is my viewfinder, and I'm like, okay, where is the door? There's a secret passage. think some natural panic came on. I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm lost in this room now. But no, I found the door, kicked it open, and there's a whole plethora of people in that room, all looking back at me, thinking I'm a ghost. But
that's a little investigator tip. Anytime you walk into a room, go human.
Yeah,
I do that. I'll go human.
Right. I probably can make a collage of all the video clips I get people looking at me when I walk in the room. Hey guys. So, but yeah, I didn't really feel anything oppressing, and I do get that feeling, and that's funny. I think anyone who's investigated a long time and really kind of went through the ringer has felt that energy, whether they're more psychic prone or not. I don't think I'm at all psychic, but Yeah, I could feel that energy, and man, it feels uncomfortable. I tell you.
Stay in the field, and you will be, because I think it becomes like an allergic reaction.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, I'm pretty good at picking up some strange stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, you become tuned to it, because when I entered the field, I was oblivious. And I'm still relatively oblivious, but...
Right.
But, okay, everybody, now here is what I think about the Farrar Schoolhouse. Now, I'm not going to get into the tree spirits like my shaman friend, Cody Chris here. Although I tried to sleep against the oak tree, and it was just too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The place is attracting spirits, whether it's from memories as the people pass away, or from paranormal investigators walking up and down the halls going, where are the children at? One way or the other, it is attracting ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Aaron, that goes back to your point. Chris calls them transients.
Right.
Which actually, I think in that case, it is more of a transient thing. In other words, it's just wandering ghosts looking for a cool place to hang out. And then they adopt the persona of children, revert to their own childhood. I don't know.
Right.
Some of them probably did belong there as far as being the children that were part of the history of the building. The principal, and the reason me and I not once could pick up on anything negative about this entity, even though all the stories, now you've heard the interviews that I did, Chris, everybody talked about the principal.
Right.
Then after we got done and talked to Will, who's there all the time, he doesn't feel that the principal character is a negative entity at all. Now, he might be a little protective, but he said that that no, and the stories that were validated, that were researched about the sexually abusive and mentally abusive and all the stories that we talked about the principal character, no found basis in fact, verbal or otherwise. So we want.
I heard the janitor was into a lot of the negative, actions with the children as well. And again, I can find that.
Well, okay. Now here's where we're going the other direction. The janitor character. There's been some oral history read to the people that run the place. Allegedly, now I don't know this, but so I'm going to take them at their word. The reason they haven't released a lot of information about the actual character is apparently there is some lawsuits with the estate, that type of thing.
Okay.
So in other words, these people that he, and apparently it wasn't that long ago, because the people that he abused many of them are still living.
Right.
Okay.
So take that for what it's worth. But now, whether or not, now that's one thing I didn't get into. Now here's a little history about me, people. I cannot always pick up on something, especially one particular type of entity that I tend to call a soul sucker or a soul collector. They absolutely, I cannot sense them. I kind of have to put it together based on stories and what other people sense. But when I did a meditation thing, Chris went to eat because that's what Chris does.
And who went and brought you back stuff?
You brought me a Dr. Pepper. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, hey.
But so basically, I used that time between our walkthrough and the hunt to try to open up psychically and to try to tune in on the place better. And now the vision I kept getting was I would see a light and I would see it blocked. I'd see a light and then I would see it blocked. Light, I thought it might be just the sun playing tricks on my eyes, even when I wasn't looking at the sun. But I kept seeing that, and I could not. So I really dismissed it at the time. What it is now, my interpretation of what's going on there is an entity in the basement. I'm assuming it's a human-based entity. because that's, I mean, soul collector. Anytime you hear me use the term soul collector or soul sucker, they are human. Just they maybe were vampires in life, as they call them. But I'm not even sure this one fell into that category. But he's keeping the ghosts show up for whatever reason. The children show up for history, or to relive their childhood. Some of them might be like Cheryl Ann said that some of them go there just because they're pissed off and they want to, before they leave this earthly plane, they want to make their pissed off that it's known. But once they get there, this thing is not letting them cross over. They cannot, and it's not so much keeping them there magnetically or metaphysically. It's just blocking the road, you might say. An interesting story that was relayed. They feel like, some people feel like they crossed a spirit over, and this was. I got this story from 3 different people that were there apparently that night, and they talked. And this was an unusual thing because they talked about the crossing. They felt that the child hatched and followed them out of the building, all the way over to the cemetery before it would cross. So, in other words, got it out of this field of influence. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know so much that the souls that are there are trapped there, as much as I'd hate to use the word lost because it brings in a whole bunch of other connotations, but they don't know how to leave. That's how I'm going to put it out there. Now, those are totally my psychic impressions of the place, but it is basically whatever this entity is based, knows how to block the light, and so that's what I came up with. Now, Chris, don't have to agree with me. What were your psychic impressions of what is going on, the entities in place?
Now, like you, I also feel there's a single strong entity in there because I had a couple of encounters with it. And I'm actually towards the back. I was backing out, and it was very, very strong. It would try to get energy from anybody, whether they were another ghost or a person. I mean, I felt tendrils of it's almost like they reach out at you and try to latch on to you. And of course, I wasn't having any of that. So it would eventually left because I kept kind of pushing it around or trying to. I don't know. I threw my energy out, and that's a long, complex thing, folks. It's sort of like, I guess, you would say like the Force or something. It's not really that. But anyway, I tried to make it move on. And there was something that walked across that one wall. The wall, one long wall of the auditorium. 2 or 3 people saw a figure. Wes, I'm not sure if you saw it or if you saw it or not. I know I did, and a couple other people saw it, like leaving, going out this one, but definitely walking down this wallway. It was sort of a black, but energy-looking thing that left. And after that, it felt pretty clean. Yeah, the crossover place was where they tried to do it initially was very, very hot. Had a lot of energy to it and a lot of sadness to it. The spirit was very sad. Now there are other spirits that would kind of creep along the hallways but wouldn't come in the doors. Like my wife encountered one, and she didn't want to go in the room because she didn't feel comfortable in there, so she's kind of stuck in the doorway because she went in the hallway. Now, is the thing controlling? It's probably I don't know. Because I didn't, like I said, I almost have to EVP see if it's actually who that is. There's other type of spirits. I mean, I've been in place before where a elemental entity will come in. Those are constructs of some kind of energy. I'm not sure if they're from their lab. But you got a little kid standing next to you. It's not a little kid. It's something else because it's too strong to be a little kid. And so, but yeah, I mean, there was some of them felt good about being there, and some of them were kind of, they wouldn't really want to contact with you, like they'd be in trouble if they did. And so, and then again, I don't, my skills are such that I'm a medium rare, as I say, and so I have to be in pretty good contact with them to get much. And that's hard to do because then I have to go off to someplace else, and if I'm hosting, I feel like I'm leaving other people, unprotected if I do that. So I kind of tend to try to keep the big fish away, if there are any, and then make sure everybody else is all right, and let them look for that stuff and whatnot. But yeah, whether he or whatever it is actually keeping them there. It's possible. I've seen it happen before. But yeah, there is definitely an alpha entity in Farrar. Be it the janitor or something else. I'm not sure.
The difference I felt about this one, now I've been around controlling entities before. The controlling entities that I've experienced, my interpretation was they actually had some type of control. They could keep souls where they wanted them through force. I did not feel that this one was using force. It was more like trickery. It was more like an illusion, you might say. So while the controlling personality would feed into it, in other words, I think it's, I've always said that spirits tend to learn to do one trick really, really well. Whether it's talk on the recorder or get through ghost box or, stuff. Some can move stuff and you'll never get a word.
Open drawers.
Yeah, open drawers.
Yeah.
That thing.
Well, they only have so much energy to work with, and you got to pick one and become good at it, I guess.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they don't all. Maybe they only get part of the manual when they die. I don't know, but it seemed. But the psychic impression I got from this thing was that was its trick. That it can create darkness. And also, now, I'm not sure. Now, two things happened, everybody. Or one thing happened, and so I don't know. All through the evening, I was trying to reach out with my energy, and I always felt like I was reaching to the darkness. So once again, that feeds that perception that I have. Now, another thing that happened is Idiot Boy here, before we even got the investigation started, took a bad step on the stairs. Basically, there were like 8 stairs, and I did 7 of them, and landed hard on an ankle, and blew out my ankle for the night, so I was in a little bit of pain, but the main thing is, I think when I do something stupid like that, the shields go up.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know how open that I was through the evening. But I was more or less laying very quietly or rambling most of the night. I would just lay on the floor, or because it's a school and I'm old, it's uncomfortable. To sit, I can't do Indian style anymore.
What's uncomfortable sitting on the floor?
So anyway,
true.
Yeah. So so I usually lay out flat, but I try to reach out like I usually do. And
you actually booze.
Well, there were a couple of ladies in the group, but anyway, but as I would try to reach out, and normally I can see little streaks of light going around the building. In other words, it's my little roadmap to the paranormal. I could not do it that night, and now whether it was because I blew out my ankle or because I was seeing the darkness, that's up for my own personal.
That makes sense.
I did want to share that
because it would get dark. I mean, it's the sign that there's a spirit there. When we were in the little library there, and Elizabeth was reading, I felt like it was crowded by me, but not by necessarily, but by there was a blackness around me. It wasn't particularly uncomfortable, just a little bit stifling, but nothing bad. But yeah, I mean, you just get these patches of intense darkness. It may hide in those things, and again, that was good. But then it makes me like, okay, I'm feeling stuff, I can't quite get a handle on them. That might have been it too. And it's sort of like trying to screen them off. They're hiding behind this stuff. That's an interesting concept.
It goes by. Of course, I got the word show. And honestly, my impression was, okay, they're just putting on a show for the tourist. But upon reflection, I only got part of the message. And anytime I go into a place, I feel like my light shines. What we were talking about earlier, whether it's metaphysical or personality, whatever it is. And I think that was someone, probably my spirit guide Philip, trying to tell me, show the light. And quite honestly, because I had the wrong mindset, the darkness, I would never really push that aspect of my psychic self. And so I when I was meditating over it, I asked my spirit guides, I really screwed the pooch, didn't I? But they were kind.
Well, it's about learning. I mean, no matter what you learn about, if there are no entities there, what's going on. And different things happen at different times, and there are people who came to us, like Aaron and these other folks that came to learn different things. And sometimes we don't get the whole message because, well, we're not supposed to really do it, because somebody else there might need that lesson of how to break through that themselves. So there, you have to consider that as well, that things happen for a reason, and it's just how it rolls. As long as everybody came out of it cool and everybody had a great time, as far as I could tell it. So if somebody got sucked up into a vortex or something, that sucked. It means we didn't do our job. But
what happened to Fred, guys?
Yeah, somebody got in the other realm, but it didn't happen. So it all worked out well. But yeah, I mean, sometimes that's what we got to do. We just learn that way.
For years when I early 2000s when I did the dance by myself, for the most part, I didn't have like the TV shows that would kind of give me more I guess the idea of what I could feel. I just read them out of a lot of books and anything that I can get my hand on. So I mistaked that energy or that feel, that static, and I say static loosely. It's an uncomfortable feeling, but I mistake that for fear for years, for like, I don't know, for like 3 years. Whenever I got that uncomfortable feeling, like, okay, maybe I'm going to move, and finally when I put my foot down, stopped and confronted, built that confidence. That's when a lot of results started happening, and my mind would be more clear, and answers start appropriately happening.
Well, I mean, arguably, that feeling you're talking about, the little hairs on the back of your neck, that is your body's reaction to something that's foreign, a foreign energy, an energy that you're not used to. So therefore, I mean, you're only one step away there from the fight or flight response. So I mean, mistaking that for the early level stages of fear is actually, I would say, very primal.
Right. I tell people, if they ever get in an investigation, 2 things is all they need. 2 words, in a sense. It's confidence and conviction. Confidence in what you do, and conviction in what you say. Don't back down and push forward.
So now I tell everybody flashlight and piece of paper, but that's me. Okay, that's so
bring a sandwich.
Yeah.
Those are our impressions of Farrar. So the general consensus is it is a worthwhile place to visit, everyone.
Right.
We do feel that there's activity there. Now one thing before I let we close this hour out, I want to close out. Aaron, I want to hear, what is your Ghost Crier project that's coming up? Let's get you a plug in before we let you go.
Oh, man. Thank you, Wes. I'm so glad that you asked. Ghost Crier project. It started, back in 1999 with a vision. It was actually called ghostcriers.org. I was building up as an organization, a full nonprofit right here in Iowa, and I had the vision to give someone a good option, a good, legal option, background check, the whole works on an investigative team. Because at that time, there's a lot of stories coming out with unfortunately, investigators that were known pedophiles going into people's houses, and of course, other horrible crimes. People are just letting these people in without doing any proper background check. So I jumped back into the game with this vision where I want to support the community. Well, after a year, I decided to learn a little bit more about, if anything, energy manifestation actually in Tucson, Arizona, for a professor out there. After the year passed in 1999, and now we're here actually in 2015, I decided, I want to bring up ghost criers again, but let's change the focus a little bit. So it's ghost crier, now it's 2 words, kind of like town crier, because I still want to give the message, of ghostly activity and all that fun stuff, and I want to support not only the public, I want to support the community, because there's a lot of awesome stuff. Not only the TV teams that are doing this awesome work on national television, but the local groups in their own community, and even groups maybe in their own state. I want to support that. I want to acknowledge that creativeness and make a hub for that. And of course, try building a career for me around the paranormal without having that, that attachment to major television production. So how am I going to do this? 'Cause I can't sit around and just keep on wishing. I got to do. So I did. And last year, September 15th, I decided to put forward Ghost Crier. So I started building the social media. We're Ghost Crier on Facebook as well as Twitter, and Ghost Crier videos. That's on YouTube, and that's going to be the big thing, guys. Actually, I'm like 3 subs away from 300. That's kind of exciting when I have like 0 videos. But we're launching on October 1st, and my big area is, or my big kind of stomping ground on the internet is ghostcrier.com. www.ghostcrier.com, where I can kind of scream out what other groups are doing, people are doing. I know I've got Paranormal Filler featured on the Para-Unity section, because I'm a huge fan of the idea of Para-Unity. I think I heard it once right when I started to get back into this, and I just rolled with it. I love it. So I want to allow people to have a venue where they can look at their favorite TV teams, as well as, folks that are just doing good radio, good videos, good write-ups regarding ghost activity for the most part. That might spread out to more things later, but yeah. So just trying to build something here right now. October 1st is going to be the big hurrah, I think, with the YouTube.
It's a cool website. I'm looking at it right now.
Awesome, thank you.
And if you're spelling,
I am not a website designer, so that's totally out of my comfort zone.
You do not have to be a web. Just don't break the rules. I don't see where you broke any. Rules are, first of all, everybody, nerd talk here. If they don't see it when they open the page, they're not gonna see it. Long front pages are useless, and yours is not long.
Cool.
If they're actually looking for something, if they want information, they're going to go to the menu. They're not going to scroll down for 5 minutes on your front page.
Right.
So it is organization. It all boils down to organization.
And the About Us section doesn't say a lick of anything about me for the most part. It says a couple paragraphs about my idea. It says if you want to get to know me, follow me on Twitter. That's a thing.
And for the spelling challenge, that is ghostcrier, CRIER.com.
Yep.
So
true. So yeah, that's my long plug. Thank you.
That's neat. That's cool, Aaron.
Well, everybody, we're at the end of the show. I want to keep this within an hour so the affiliates don't bitch. Chris and I will be at the Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, coming up in just 2 short weeks, September 30th through October 1st, and that's the show, everybody. I don't know what I'll be doing next week because I'm so concentrated on Scarefest that probably,
You'll think of something.
I'll think of something. And, of course, Chris and I also do have the Paranormal Valley Mines event in Valley Mines, Missouri, coming up October 15th. There is information about that on Paranormal